But you were telling me off camera, though, that when you moved here, though, they never told you that this
Why
was
would
here.
they?
Exactly.
Why would they? When I moved in, yeah, let's move you in this place. Oh, yeah, by the way.
Exactly 9 days ago, at approximately 12:20 p.m., the earth opened up behind these apartments. The hole was approximately 70 feet wide and 100 feet deep. And you want to know something else? It wasn't the first time it happened. But today, I'm back here not only to give you an update on this location, but to share some new information with you as well. With that being said, you're invited to come along with me. So to give you kind of a recap, if you missed my first video, which you can find linked down below, behind these apartment units used to be a shaft, a mine shaft. Used to be a head frame there, and it was a combination of ventilation and for a hoist. And this is back in the old coal mining days. Well, these buildings were built in the early 1980s, and let's just say the event that occurred in 2023 was not the first time it happened. Now we've had a really wet summer, which didn't help matters at all. Well, 9 days ago, the earth opened up, and people that lived here, including the buildings over there and the buildings behind me, over 20 people were forced to evacuate within minutes. Take what you can, you have to get out. It's unsafe. Buildings were condemned. People were not told when they could return, if at all. The following day, work commenced on filling the massive sinkhole, which was a literal underground mine subsidence, exactly where the shaft used to reside, where it actually went down 750 feet down into the coal mines. When I was here, I flew the drone around, got some aerial footage when they were just starting to prep the road going to the back. They had a bulldozer back there, a skid steer, and they were bringing in triaxles of stone to make it safe to get to that hole. Now in the past, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but like I said, this has happened before. And in the past, when the hole happened, when it opened up, not only was the shaft exposed going down 750 feet, but it was so unsafe that they actually had to use a conveyor system. They had a conveyor belt parked with the edge of it going into the hole. So they were literally loading material onto the conveyor, and the conveyor was just shooting it right into the hole. It was just that unsafe. They couldn't get close enough with equipment to fill in that hole. This time, it only opened up about 100 feet, but we did learn some new information. I was speaking to one of the residents here, and he did lose some possessions. He lost a patio table, a grill, chairs, other things that basically got swallowed up by the hole. And he was forced to leave and say, take what you can.
There she blows.
All right, so resident Paul here allowed us to come in and take a look at the apartment and right where the hole was. So where was your stuff located at, your table and chairs and stuff?
Okay, so you had the slab right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was two pieces, so it came out to about here. My kitchen table was, or not the kitchen table, the patio table, and the four chairs were right there. And then when you came up the door, I had a smaller milk crate and a taller milk crate, longer one. And it was sitting there. And then on this side, I had my little Coleman grill, the old Milwaukee, right here. On the other side, I had a trash can with wheels and a lid right there, because she didn't have nothing out here. And then my gas grill was right here. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Yeah, gone. Bye-bye. Oh, and my cat cross that I made for her when she passed away was right here. Well, when this all fell, I'm thinking because it's a cross. When it fell, and it probably got wedged up in there, then it fell down, it slid down. It was probably 3 feet down.
Gotcha.
And they all saw it.
Yeah.
Everybody knew about it. Because I let everybody know when I saw it. They saved it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got that back?
I got it back.
Oh, that's great.
They saved it, yeah. So if everything I lost, I don't care.
Yeah.
It can be replaced, but it was still mine.
Yeah, that's meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know?
But you were telling me off camera, though, that when you moved here, though, they never told you that this
Why
was
would
here.
they?
Exactly.
Why would they? Would I have moved in? Yeah, let's move you in this way. Oh, yeah, by the way. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Only
anyways,
imagine.
in the, almost, because actually, right now is my anniversary of 2 years being here.
Okay.
I watched it sink. No.
Over time.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah.
Yep.
I used to watch the fence line, you know? Because the fence was bent, too. Well, you could see it.
Start
About
sagging.
12 inches to 18 inches.
Yeah.
In the 2 years. I know it. Like when they dug up the water main that was over here, and they left all the shit here, when they filled it back in, they did kind of raise a little bit. And how they tried to flatten it
Yeah.
with a little backhoe. That's gonna work.
Yeah.
But they did fill it in a little bit, but now,
Yeah. Got it. Well,
one thing to do, right?
yeah. Thanks for giving us a look. I appreciate
No
that.
problem, man. No problem.
Coming back, we're able to get a better look at things. Here is another post. That guy is quite a character. So initially when I saw these, when I was here the first time, saw footage on the news station, these looked like they were posts or supports for something. And that one in particular had a pipe going down that was exposed from the subsidence. People said these were boreholes that were drilled and then capped off. So I can only go off of what was shared, but they do look like supports to something. I have seen boreholes before, especially like at Centralia. These actually have chunks of coal in them. But to cap them off in this fashion is unlike anything I've ever seen before. But up there too is the water tower that I pointed out last time here, just confirming that we were in the same exact area. And there's just some trails back here. You can see where they had it fenced off and roped off and do not cross line, because people were actually coming back here to get a look at the hole and look down into the subsidence. And that gentleman, Paul, just said he basically was the most unfortunate out of the 4 tenants that do live here, because he lost probably close to $1,000, if not more, in possessions, table, chairs, grills, other things. So he's not sure if he's going to be compensated. And the unique thing is that he was told now he can move back in, as can the other tenants, because that building there, the people are back in. That building there, the people are back in. This is no longer condemned. They're allowed to move back in, but there's no power here. They actually just got water restored just a couple days ago, because the water line ran underneath here. When the ground gave way, it ruptured the water line, and water is flowing out right into the hole, making it even worse. So they had to shut off the water, reroute the power at the water line, but power is still not here yet. So they were anticipating up to a month of them being out. Well, we're only 9 days later, and he's able to return, but with no electricity. So he's still not back here yet. He said he's just kind of cleaning things up, getting it ready for when he can move back in. They did put him in another unit. Other people were staying with friends and family, but I guess it's good that they could be back sooner than expected. But this is their backyard now. It is just a pile of dirt. Now, what was explained by DEP is that they're going to monitor this site and see how it is going to change, especially over the freeze-thaw cycle, which is going to be coming up in the wintertime here. They're anticipating it's going to drop down a bit more as it settles and collects, and with rainwater and so on and so forth, they may have to come in and add more material. But this is essentially what's done for now. Eventually, once it's done settling and has reached the lowest point after settling, they probably will put some topsoil and grass. But for right now, they don't really have much of a backyard, but the hole is filled in, and it was, I would say it's a pretty expedited effort. It was done quicker than I was thinking it would be. And you know what? Here's a pipe here. Oh, that might be the water pipe. I was wondering if that was the pipe that was maybe beneath that. I think this is the water line that they had to replace. But as I've said, he agreed too. It's very fortunate that no one got hurt or lost their life. He said he had a dog who recently passed away, and there's times the dog has been outside here because normally this is fenced in. He said he couldn't imagine if his dog was out here and that happened. Yeah, that'd be devastating. So as mentioned, I do have some information to share with you. This is kind of a little timeline of things to kind of bring us up to speed with things. So what was located here was called the Glen Lyon Shaft number 6. It is part of the Glen Lyon Colliery. The colliery breaker was located down by Main Street, not too far from here. It was built in 1870 and operated here until the 1960s. So this mine was in operation for almost 100 years. Now behind us here, as I explained, was a vertical shaft, 750 feet deep down into the mine workings. And on top of it was a steel head frame with big pulleys and cables. It was used for hoisting either men and or coal cars in and out of the mine shaft. Also worked as ventilation as well for the mines. Back in 1983, these buildings here were under construction. No one lived in them yet. But in 1983, that hole opened up for the very first time in a much more serious fashion. It actually opened up to where you could see the vertical shaft going straight down. It's just a rectangular opening going straight down, and that's when this first happened. 40 years later, 40 years exactly later, it happened again. Not as severe, but still, history repeated itself. So it's not the first time it happened. Good chance it won't be the last time it happened. Now, I don't know all the specifics as to how they capped it or sealed it. And what I've heard, though, is that for vertical shafts especially, that they do put a false cap or a collar. So they either use like narrow gauge rail or ties or something else. They basically put a false cap somewhere in the shaft. And then they basically just bury on top of that, because otherwise if they had to fill 750 feet full of material, I mean, that could get pretty costly and time consuming. So they do put a false cap or a collar and bury it on top of that. And over time, either it erodes away or just gets changed and shifted by the earth moving. But the reason this one opened up is because underground is what is known as the mine pool, like a water table. So as deep as these mines are in this area, they're flooded. It's all filled with water. Back in the operation days, they had to constantly run pumps 24/7 to keep the water out of the mines. The mines shut down, pumps shut off, they fill up with water. So any material that they put in there to fill that shaft basically gets displaced horizontally into the mines. The water, just like on the surface, water washes material away, causes erosion, mudslides, stuff like that. Same thing's happening beneath the surface. So the water slowly and surely eats away at the dirt in that shaft, just keeps dropping down. Eventually, there's not enough material to support the weight above it, and it just gives way and opens up. Now, DEP, Bureau of Mine Reclamation, did the remediation work, and they were estimating about 5,000 tons of rock material to fill that void. Ended up being about 7,000 tons, more than they were anticipating, but 7,000 tons of material is what it took to fill in that 70 feet wide, 100 foot deep hole. And it actually was estimated to cost over $200,000 to remediate the mine subsidence. And funding was provided from the Federal Abandoned Mine Land Fund, which is a fee imposed on active coal mine companies. So all the active coal mines that are operating today are charged a fee, and that fee goes towards stuff like this. Now, as we heard from Paul, the tenant, he was never told that this opened up previously back in 1983. He's only here 2 years. He never knew that this opened up once before. He never knew there was a mine shaft. He did know that there was mines in the area, but he never knew his backyard was a 750 foot deep hole. Now, the one thing that's circulating around the area on news, comment sections on social media, is that how many people's pockets were lined for this to be permissible, meaning officials that oversaw this apartment complex. How much were they paid off to say, yes, it's okay to build that particular building right there, literally feet away from a mine shaft? How did they get the okay for that? How did they get the okay to put people in there? When this happened in 1983, before tenants moved in my opinion, they never should have proceeded with this building. They should have removed it or did something different than putting people there knowing that it could possibly happen again. I mean, that's just my opinion though. It did take 40 years, but 40 years, history did repeat itself. Now I'm betting that back in 1983 when tenants first moved in here, none of them were told that's what's back there. Even in modern day now, 40 years later, with new tenants living here, how many of them are aware that a shaft subsided 40 years ago? Probably very few. We're gonna put the drone up one more time, get some aerial views showing the aftermath. As we rise up and look down, no longer a void, just evidence that something took place. It's somewhat back to normal, but not as it was, obviously. I'm going to try to recreate the same shot I had last time of when I came around the side of the building here, showing the opening. So right here is where they were working with the dozer, trucking in the dirt. And right here where this cone is, and this gutter trough is where a concrete slab was, and right now we'd be dropping off into the hole. So it's kind of like a funnel shape, kind of over the deepest part of it now. And here's a look again at that concrete borehole cap. What does that look like? It looks like 1926. I think we have confirmation of that. So this was drilled and placed here while the mine was in operation, about 40 years before it closed. Since we're here too, I'm going to give you a visual of the water tower that's up there behind these apartments. Oh, there it is. It's hiding behind the trees. So that's the same one, or at least same location that we could see in the old map when this was in operation, that this was here. Like we got a dump truck and trailer picking up more equipment. As I mentioned in my first video, it's not unheard of for people to be displaced due to floods, natural disasters, fires, but mine subsidences, not so common. But in places here like northeast Pennsylvania, under this entire valley is basically a honeycomb of mine workings. And there's nothing to say that they can't give way at some point. But when they have a vertical shaft near a place like this that wasn't capped properly 40 years ago, well, longer than 40 years ago, this could happen. It's happened in Centralia, where Todd Dombowski almost lost his life to mine subsidence, where the underground mine fires were, and other places have had smaller openings and other smaller subsidences. And when you have really wet summers like we've had, it doesn't help the circumstances. It just makes it worse. Paul's walking around chatting with everyone, sharing his story. But the one question I do have for you, and I asked him, would you build a home or would you move into a place knowing that a underground mine subsidence happened decades ago? He said he probably wouldn't. Would you? Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching this update on the Glen Lyon underground mine subsidence, where history did repeat itself 40 years later. As always, everyone, I'll see you in the next video.